Donald Trump is, in terms of his identity as a car salesman, if you will, or a deal man from the 80s, hence his book, The Art of the Deal. But my question is regarding also your identity, sir. In terms of, you just built an association with Mr. Nasrallah, who is a dominant figure here in Lebanon, at least. And do you see yourself as a resistance man? And your resistance is exactly against what? And if you can encapsulate that for us.
I didn't see myself, I believe in that way, as a result of simply going about publishing true information. And there's no allegation has survived for more than a few minutes that our information isn't strictly true. While there has been a great many attacks on my organization, there has been illegal banking blockades in Grand Prix in the United States, which has been trying to work out how to imprison me for the last 6 years, and possibly some of our other staff as well. And of course, PR campaigns, intelligence campaigns. The UK government has admits to spending more than $20 million on the round-the-clock surveillance of me just by police services alone in this embassy. So there's a lot to resist simply to keep publishing, and your mind does turn to others who have successfully managed to keep going under a lot of pressure, and Nasrallah is one of those people.
It's interesting because
we don't have a giant subsidy from Iran, however, so he has some breaks.
There's I don't know, for our audience, 12.5 million pounds just for the security of the Ecuadorian Embassy in the last 4 years to keep an eye on you.
I had reached 12.6 million pounds by October last year, so actually it's
and that's quite an extensive amount when you think about it. You know, this is
it's a salary, it's a full-time salary equivalent to 154 police.
Yeah, that's, you know, and we don't know if they're asking for a raise or not, but that's a lot. There's a lot going on there. Mr. Assange, Sarah Harrison, one of your closest advisors and also an editor at WikiLeaks, wrote an article about 10 days ago titled "Why the World Needs WikiLeaks," where she explains that WikiLeaks shines a light on largely unaccountable networks of power that span countries and industries. And WikiLeaks has been accused of being a pawn of the Russian government, she says. And she's previously stated that the greatest unaccountable power of today is the United States and our Western democracies. What is, you know, because I'm sure you get that a lot, but what is your relationship today with Russia?
There's no relationship. It's as simple as that. And United States intelligence has admitted repeatedly that they can find a relationship. From James Clapper, the head of the DNI, which is the central body which oversees all US intelligence agencies, to, I just trying to think who the other figures are, I can't recall their names, but anyway, the top guy and others have all stated that they can find no relationship between...
Have you released any leaks about Russia that could compromise Russian politics in any way? Maybe the lack of that, could lead somebody to assume all these...
No, well, Americans don't really pay attention to anything that's not in English and in the United States and about the United States. We have released more than 800,000 documents referencing Russia and Vladimir Putin, the majority of which are critical, have been gone on to be used in many lawsuits and many critical books. So, it's the usual rubbish
Have you received
frankly.
any threat the way that you have? Because the United States has definitely, they've had a very off with your head approach when they talk about it in the news and publicly. Have you received anything similar from Russia or heard anything similar?
Yes, there was back in beginning of 2011 or late 2010. There were threatening statements made by Russia.
Right.
It was in response to upcoming publications of the diplomatic cables about Russia.
That when we mentioned that time that you just mentioned, late 2010, early 2011, and I'm going to bring it a bit back to our region here, with Cablegate, the diplomatic cable leak in late 2010, basically embarrassing a lot of diplomats, putting a lot of what was going on in some of these Arab nations out there. I remember reading a specific article that was talking about in Tunisia how the president, Zine Abidine Ali, was living this majestically Aladdin-like life, sultan in a palace and had a pet tiger, and then they were comparing that luxury of life to that of the Tunisian day-to-day man. We're going to talk about Mohamed Bouazizi, who started this, what was known as the Arab Spring. He had his fruit cart, he couldn't sell fruit, and then he basically set himself ablaze. And there was this whole, what the diplomatic cables revealed in a lot of ways was that we knew this, but then they really put it out there in the media, and every person could access it, is that there was such a big disconnect between the leaders and the people. And a lot of critics say that it didn't, WikiLeaks, the diplomatic cables didn't start the Arab Spring, but it possibly fueled it.
Well, I've written about this in my book, When Google Met WikiLeaks, and perhaps I can just quote that section for you. So Clinton talked about how publication is causing tears in the fabric of government. And that's in some ways correct, but the fabric needs to be inflexible for tears to occur in the first place, so that the more authoritarian the government apparatus, or the more hypocritical the government apparatus, the faster those tears appeared. And so that did happen in Tunisia.
An impact of some sort.
Ben Ali's propaganda minister later confessed that our leaks were, quote, the coup de grace, the thing that broke the Ben Ali system.
Which started the Arab
You
Spring.
can also read the writings of Sami Ben Garba, a Tunisian involved in translating our cables to French. So there's 20 days between the publication of our cables and the protests that started in response to the street seller setting himself on fire.
It just goes to show you the importance of media, and it's funny, we always mention Clinton, and something that has been very discomforting and kind of made a lot of people question in this past month alone is that the media is extremely important, might be the most important influence when it comes to affecting people. In the United States election, and I bring it back to this, before the elections, the media had, probably for the first time in a very long time, endorsed a candidate, Hillary Clinton. A lot of news outlets, news publications were endorsing her. A lot of people made it very clear, polls made it very clear she was going to win. I mean, even when you saw the stage of the her stage at in New York, she had the United States stage. Trump had a much more demure stage for his acceptance speech. I don't know if he wasn't expected if he wasn't expecting to win or not. But how do you explain that the media went to such length to portray Trump as this monstrosity, and the polls had her winning, everybody had her winning, and even you said in a last interview, Trump would not be allowed to win because banks, foreign power, Wall Street was behind her, and the media was behind her. So how do you explain the role of the media the day after, when everybody says, okay, he just won, what was that all about?
Well, Hillary Clinton unified the establishment. I mean, you played a tape before of me saying that I felt sorry for her. I wasn't being ironic or mocking. I genuinely feel personally sorry for someone who really is tormented by their quest for power. And that was before they, ultimately did the cheater. The media, yes, she unified the establishment. The figure of Donald Trump made that particularly easy for her because Trump is the anti-establishment candidate, despite himself being from the wealthy New York real estate establishment. He was not connected in a serious way to the Washington, D.C. Political intelligence or diplomatic establishment. So the media were part of that, and in my view acted,
But wasn't it almost like a reaction?
Disgraceful way. They acted in a disgraceful way by
So what is the role of the media then?
Constantly making editorial endorsements to the candidate. We don't make editorial endorsements. And I reflected on it. I think they felt they were in a forced position for them to make editorial endorsement to Clinton. Otherwise, they couldn't publish anything about her. Because they'd be subject to so much criticism for publishing information about Clinton. So they had to endorse Clinton in order to be able to safely publish any information that might be viewed as critical of Hillary Clinton. And of course, some other publishers simply doing it to gain hopeful preferment for themselves or for their proprietors on her nomination, because it was widely viewed that she would be nominated. Widely viewed that she would be elected.
Can we get a question from the audience? One question, please, if we can get the microphone in, so we can keep this going before we get to. Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Assange. My name is Sarah Yaffe. I'm also a political commentator, but very differently from what you do. Two questions for you. The first one is, what do you think of your lawyer, Amal Clooney's work? If you're unable to get a hold of her, surely there's a cousin of hers in the room here, and probably could offer help. And the second one, which is a question that I got a lot, what can a regular person do to help, considering that we're not Pamela Anderson and cannot come with vegan food to you?
Yes.
Pamela opened every door. It seems everyone's heard of her and everyone wants to meet her. So she's a very effective emissary, believe it or not.